The price is too high. Oh, there's no way I could pay that. I could afford that. I could invest that. Don't you have something cheaper, something simpler, something, more affordable? We spoke about this the other day, about skin in the game. And the reason why most people will never change is because of the cost, because of the price, the skin in the game, how much it's going to cost them at the moment. And yet most of the time, the quote unquote cost isn't the money. The cost that they're afraid of is the time, the investment of energy, of effort, of focus, and the cost of sacrificing things that do not serve them for the thing that they want so badly. This cost is too high. But the thing I need you to look at is, well, what's the cost of staying the same? What is the price you are paying every single day to continue where you are? To continue in a life that you hate, in a body that doesn't serve you, that makes you uncomfortable, that makes you cringe, that makes you disgusted and ashamed. What is the cost of that? Because this is the bigger question. Everyone wants to look at what they'll have to pay, what cost it will take to reach the next level, to reach something that they want. Let's take fitness, for example. Let's take the physique. And as I've said many times before, I firmly believe that fitness is the gateway drug. It's the tool, it's the thing that allows you to get everything else you want out of life. It's that stepping stone, that building block, because it teaches you the skills that are required to push into the next level. But let's look at that cost. What is it costing you to stay the same? To stay fat, to stay unhealthy, to stay unmotivated, to have no energy, to hate the man in the mirror, to be ashamed of who you are, be unable to participate in your children's lives the way that you want it to be? What is that choice costing you? What is that selfish choice costing you? Because that's the other side of this. People push back and they're like, oh, well, it's really selfish to work out when you could be dedicating time with your kids. And I was like, no. Choosing to look after your health and fitness so that you can be a better parent, so that you can show up better, so that you can live a healthier life, so that you can lead by example, is the most selfless thing you can ever do. You are starting your children off on the right foot. You are giving them skills that, well, are really, really difficult and quite painful to develop later in life. You are giving them the greatest head start possible. It's not selfish, it's selfless. And in fact, I think it's selfish to not do it. Because the flip on that is, well, you're choosing sedation. You're choosing ease. You're choosing comfort. You're choosing in-the-moment gratification over long-term success, over being the best version of yourself. Yeah, that's the selfish choice. Carving out 45 minutes a day for a workout, eating better food, all those kinds of things. That's selfless. That's putting your children's future first. And that's how it should be. And that is what is required. But we have to have these conversations of like, what is it costing you? And the harshest but most simple version is, well, what if you die? What if you died? Now how present are you as a father? Like, people want to talk about how they're there and they're present. And I was like, one, I would challenge that, because the majority of people aren't actually present. They aren't actually present in the moment, aren't spending actual quality time with their kids. They're just there. You aren't being in the moment and doing things with them. You aren't playing sports. You aren't doing on the equipment. You aren't taking them to the park. You aren't doing these things that actually makes you a present father. You're just physically there. But that is a discussion for a completely different day. But so what if you choose to quote unquote be present and then you die? Well, what does that make you then? That's not going to make you a great father. That's not going to make you the best father. You're going to be missed because you couldn't choose hard in the moment for great in the future. I don't know how much more binary I can make this. How much simpler and more focused I can make it. The cost could be your life. Look, we see it all the time at the moment. People are dying younger and younger because of it. Like, people are dying at younger ages. Men are dropping dead of heart attacks at younger and younger points. And you want to go, no, I'm a great father because I choose to spend time with them over figuring out the time to work out. Figuring out the cost of not doing it is taking on your life. I had this one years ago. I had a guy come to me and he was like, my doctors told me that if I don't do something about my health and fitness in the next 3 months, I'll be full-blown diabetic. No coming back from it. I'll probably be on insulin, all that kind of stuff. I was like, all right, cool. Here's the process. Here's what we need to do. Here's what is going to be required. Here's the cost. And he was like, oh, God, no. Can't invest that. That's far too much. I was thinking, like $50 a week, maybe. Probably closer to the $30-40 a week. And I was like, you need serious intervention, my friend. Like, this is not, we're not fucking around here. We need to make an actual proper intervention into your life. We need to do something serious about this. This isn't, go to your box gym and kind of mess around on the treadmill a little bit, pick up an occasional weight, and lo and behold, your life's back on track. No, we need to make serious, proper intervention. He decided that it wasn't worth it. Bumped into his wife a couple of years later. Turns out he didn't make any intervention at all. He ended up getting diabetic, I think it's called diabetic gangrene. It's the one where they remove the foot. His life has been completely derailed. He cannot work, he cannot do anything, he cannot enjoy life because he decided that it wasn't worth investing into his future. The question becomes, you have to know what not making this decision is costing you. What not investing time, money, and effort is costing you. I've spoken about it before. This isn't a cost, it's an investment into your future. It is only a cost if you don't get anything in return. You are investing into your future. You're investing into your health. You're investing into your kids' future, into your wife's future. I don't know about you, but showing up as the greatest version of myself for my family, there isn't a price I am not willing to pay. Whether that's time, money, effort, any of it. There is nothing that I am not willing to pay to make sure that I show up as they need me to show up as the best version, to lead by example. I've spoken about this many times before. My daughter's 4 and my son is 3. They don't understand people who don't work out. They don't get it because in their mind, that's just what people do. They work out with daddy all the time. They love it. We didn't go for a walk the other day, and I go for my walk every day, but I decided not to take them because if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see that it is wet out there. And half the time they end up in the pram, and I just didn't want them sitting soaked if they weren't going to be moving. So I decided I would do it later after they'd gone to bed. And they're like, why aren't we going for a walk? That's what we do. We go for a walk every single day. I'm I was like, yes, this is what needs to be imparted. This is what needs to be taught. That this is just what we do. And there isn't, it's not about circumstances. It isn't this thing. And they were like, oh, well, we'll get wet. So I went on a mini one to reinforce that with them. We got their raincoats, we got all that kind of stuff. We got their gumboots on and off we went. And they got soaked and they thought it was hilarious. They thought it was fantastic. Your kids aren't that fragile. They are capable of so much more if you are willing to teach them and show them and lead by example. But you have to be willing to lead by example. That is not a skill that you can just tell them. Hey, little Johnny, by the way, just, you should go out and exercise every day, regardless of the circumstances, regardless of your feelings. That's not going to land. That's not going to hit. You have to be the shining example. They need to learn from you doing it, leading by example every single day, that this is how it gets done, that this is who we are. This is ingrained into our character, that we are this type of person. That's how you help your children become the best. But it's also how you become the greatest father. I always get backlash on this, and yet I will stand by this to the day I die. You are not being the best father you can be unless you're in great shape. As I said, people push back. They always push back on that, like, that's not true. I'm a good father. I'm a great father. I'm like, you can be good. You can be. I'm sure you are. But are you great? Are you showing them what needs to be done? Are you setting them up for success by your actions, not by your words? Are you teaching them that health and fitness and all these kinds of things are a standard that must be kept? Your body is the vehicle that allows you to do everything else. If you aren't looking after it, well, shockingly, it's not going to go well. Shockingly, at some point, you aren't going to be able to show up the way you want to. As I said, I've watched a father try and play with his kids the way I was playing with my kids on the equipment at the park, and he tore his quad. If you want to know what traumatizing your child looks like when you're trying to be a great father, watching their father crumple to the ground in agony. Watch him have to be stretchered off. What kind of lesson does that teach you? Look, freak incidents happen, and it could happen technically to anyone. But that was a man who'd very clearly not exercised in a really long time and suddenly was like, I can do this. No, you have to build credibility. You have to build resume of, I do this shit every single day. I show up every single day. I do hard shit every single day. You build the resume. You show what's possible. That's how you get there. The price isn't too high, because there isn't a price that's too high to show up as the best version of you, to show up as the greatest father, husband, and man that you can be. There is no price high enough to seclude you from that. Because let me ask you, if one of your children was dying, is there anything you wouldn't do? There is nothing under this sun that I wouldn't do to save my children, to save my family. So why aren't you willing to invest that same thing into you? Why aren't you willing to do the same thing for your health? Because they need you just as much as you need them. The price isn't too high. You just aren't willing to do what is necessary. So it's time to set all of that aside. It's time to step up and become, well, the man that you know you should be. It's time to do whatever is required. Pay the price, invest in you, and watch as you get the greatest ROI in the history of man, because there is nothing greater than investing into yourself and watching that come into fruition. So if you're ready for that, you know where to find me. And until then,